Bhagavate Ramakrishnaya. Om. Salutations to Bhagavan Shri Ram Krishna. Good morning, everybody. Before we can go into today's topic of titled Evaluation of Bliss, we'll take a few seconds off to send a prayer to those who are in this conflict zone in Europe and elsewhere. In this world of interconnectedness, we are more interested or more worried about the gas prices going up. How selfish can we be? These things have a global impact on global consciousness. And we need to send up prayers for those who are in distress, those who are suffering. That's the best way to happiness. Today's topic, technically it's called Ananda Mimamsa, the evaluation of bliss. Rather, it means a deep study or the dissection of bliss. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, one of the grandest of all Upanishads, speaks about this. On a particle of this bliss of Brahman, all beings live. So the Upanishad says, on a particle of this bliss of Brahman, all beings live. Etasyaiva anandasya anyani bhutani matram upajivanti. Just a particle of that bliss of Brahman, that all living beings live. So we know what's the basis of life. Bliss. Okay. And we all pursue this bliss. What is bliss? Well, perfect happiness, pleasure, ecstasy, joy, unsullied joy. And then we have elation, and then we have the various other words to denote what is bliss. But it can be really encapsulated in words. It's an experience. And this is what every living being does. Seeks happiness, avoids pain. This is the hallmark of all living beings. And I mean living beings, we are not the only living beings on the planet. Okay. The planet today has, as it were, I was reading in a scientific journal, has attained to something called global consciousness. It's amazing that science keeps on saying. So every being avoids pain and goes towards pleasure. Okay. And this bliss, this joy, this happiness, this elation, this ecstasy, this sudden lifting up of one's own, you can say, mind or the mood, is what is desirable for everybody. Everybody wants it. But where exactly is this? So the Upanishads, specifically two Upanishads called the Taittiriya Upanishad and the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, these speak to us on this evaluation of bliss. Okay. We know how we pursue happiness, but it is so transitory in our lives. And our lives are more dominated by struggles and sufferings, and at times life becomes a nuisance. Why? Well, we have not really gone down and seen the source of this bliss. Now, where is this? We got to understand that the Upanishad also says that this who can live a moment, who can breathe a moment, if this bliss wasn't there in the space of your heart. So here we have the source of your bliss. And not only that, the Upanishad says, who can live a moment if this bliss was not existent in one's own being? Technically it says the Akash, the space within the heart, that supreme space. So this is what actually defines all living beings, rather it defines all life. We would be dead if this bliss was absent in our lives. And what is this bliss? This bliss itself is the reality. We don't need to make a distinction between your own existence and the bliss. These two are unitive. That's why Sri Ramakrishna also says, the Vedas say, Raso Vaisaha. He is of the nature of bliss. It happened when there was a preacher of the Brahmo Samaj. He's saying, God is dry, my fellow men. Let us make him wet with our devotion, with our bhakti. And Sri Ramakrishna says, what is that fool saying? The Vedas say that God is Raso Vaisaha. That is, God is of the nature of bliss. So we also need to, what we fools are saying, God is dry. Yeah, where is God? Invisible, intangible. Well, nameless, formless, and this and that. And we have made sometimes a mess out of this idea of existence. If you want to see God, if you want to know God, if you want to realize God, is there in that bliss there, which is there in your heart. It is one with that reality. You are with that reality, one with that. That is the source of bliss. It's the nature of bliss. It is you. It is existence in a way. And that's why the Upanishads also say that we are born in that bliss, we continue to exist in that bliss, and we dissolve back into that bliss. Anandena khalvimani bhutani jayanti. Everything proceeds out of bliss, stays in bliss, and again is merged in bliss. That bliss and existence and consciousness is the same thing spoken of in different words. And this God also is that same thing. When there is God absent in your lives, then it is full of misery. When God is present in your life, you see how blissful one becomes. So to come down to the actual evaluation of bliss, it says, there's a long passage. I won't burden you with the Sanskrit, but it's one of those sublime Sanskrit passages. It won't kind of keep me away from using some of the technical terms. So it starts with, suppose there is a young man who is learned, who is good. I mean, he's not evil. He is strong he is dexterous, and he is accomplished in many things. And that person rules the whole earth. Now get this right. So, a young person in the prime of life, okay, learned, most expeditious, most strongly built, most energetic. Now, suppose this whole earth is that person's domain or kingdom. One person who rules this whole earth. And he's not a fool, he's learned in the Vedas, of course. And he's cultured, he is kept away from evil. If such be a person, this is one unit of human bliss. Now we know where we are. We don't even get a few grains of bliss. This is the baseline, as they say, it's given. The baseline is this: a young, strong, expeditious, learned, cultured, and a ruler of this whole earth. This is one unit of human bliss. Now you can see why we are so miserable. We say we are so miserable, we don't have it. Yeah. And if we keep on, on the scale from that kind of person and from what we are, it's like of diminishing value. So this is one unit of human bliss. I think we got this right. It's not a bliss of a dog or a bliss of an ordinary human being. That person is really exceptional. Now it's saying multiply this bliss by 100 and you get something called the bliss equivalent to what is called these Gandharvas. Manushya. There are, what happens is, we think we are the only beings alone in this world. Everything that's visible is only existence. No, there are millions of existences that are there which are not visible. It might be also on this earth. There are so many viruses and bacteria that we don't see, but they are there existent. Similarly, there are various grades of existence. The problem is we pull all our existence down to our own ego and say, I exist. No, there are subtle and subtler and subtler realms. There are these expansive realms of consciousness. So, and the one unit of human bliss multiplied by 100 is this Manushya Gandharvas. Their Gandharvas technically are called as celestial minstrels. They are those celestials. So we get this, the second unit of bliss. Now, the Upanishad makes a tremendous statement. And similar is the bliss that a person who knows the Vedas and who is desireless. Shrotriyasya chaka mahatasya. One who has understood the Vedas and who is without desires. That person's bliss is equivalent to that hundreds of units of bliss of these celestials. Imagine. And now again the next unit level evaluation of bliss the Upanishad does is, now these celestials, they have that kind of bliss. Their very existence is blissful. You see, our human existence also is supposed to have been blissful. But because of our limitations, because of our desires that limit us, we are miserable. Multiply that bliss of those celestials by 100, and you get the bliss of what is called Deva Gandharva, the divine celestials. The first ones were kind of, much on a much lower level. Now this Deva Gandharvas, so their unit of bliss is multiplied from the human celestials to the divine celestial by 100 units. And once again, the Upanishads say that is also equivalent to a person who has known the Vedas and who is desireless. Shrotriyasya chaka mahatasya. It's a tremendous statement. Now multiply that divine celestials by 100 and you get the bliss equivalent to the manis or the realm of the ancestors. It's called a Pitriloka. So that realm is said Chiraloka Lokanam, that they have a very extensive realm within time and space. Most of the conceptions of heaven in all these religions is this ancestral realm, the way where the ancestors go and say, you meet your relatives, you meet your father, mother and everything. You meet you can say, people whom you did not like here, you go and meet them there, imagine. So this is the realm of the ancestors. And similar is the bliss of a person who is a knower of the Vedas and one who is desireless. Now multiply that bliss of the ancestral spirits, or the realm of the ancestors, into 100, and you get those divine beings who are, as they say, born as gods. Called devas. Don't get frightened with the word Sanskrit word devas. These are all Indo-European group of languages. Devas is nothing but theos. It became theos and dios. And that becomes divine. Theos is God, divine. It has come from the same word devas. Devas means the shining, the bright ones. So those shining bright ones who are born as gods, their bliss is 100 times more than these ancestral spirits. Now multiply their bliss by 100 and you will get gods. They have categories also of gods. And then you have a higher category of gods, which they say have reached that realm through Vedic sacrifices. They are called karma devatas. So here, there you go, higher. Multiply that bliss of these karma devatas by 100 and you'll get the realm of the gods, those who are gods. And similar is the bliss that a person who knows the Vedas and who is desireless. Now multiply by 100 that bliss of the gods, and then you get the bliss of Indra, who is the king of the gods. Even they have rulers, can you imagine? And then multiply the bliss of Indra by 100-fold, and you'll get the bliss of Brihaspati, the god Brihaspati, who is the guru of the gods. Multiply that bliss of Brihaspati, the god Brihaspati, 100 times, you will get the bliss of what is called Virat. That is this cosmic person with his hands and feet and legs and eyes and everything everywhere. You think you have your eyes and legs and feet? Sorry. They all belong to that cosmic person. It's not yours. We have this, no, my body, my choice. I sometimes read and laugh at it. You don't have a choice, you don't have a body. It belongs to the cosmic person. That is the Virat. That is the palpable reality that is experienced on the gross waking state level. Multiply the bliss of the Virat, the extensive one, by 100, and you will get the bliss of Hiranyagarbha, that is the golden womb, the subtle form of creation. Now we have come to the very edge of the universe. And that's what the Vedanta means. What is the Vedanta means? We have something called the cutting edge. It's the cutting edge of knowledge. You have to sharpen that knife and cutting edge. That Anta is the cutting edge of the Vedas. The Vedanta is the cutting edge of knowledge. Okay, look at it like that. Now we have come to the very edge of this universe as we can know it through the scriptures. And similarly, that kind of bliss multiplied over 100 and 100, over 100 and hundreds and hundreds of times is equivalent to the bliss that a person who is a knower of the Vedas and who is desireless. I think we get this right. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, one of the, like I mentioned, one of the older Upanishads, they add one more qualifications to this person. Avrijno, that is one who is sinless. So one who is a knower of the Vedas, Shrotriya, Avrijno, one who is sinless, one who is without desire. So the Upanishad is telling us this is the state of desirelessness. If you can get it here, you can get the bliss of this universe within you. Now, about this desirelessness, Holy Mother speaks in that Bengali word. It's a Sanskrit, nirvasana, hole. Say, if you have become free from desires, you are liberated. And, my guru also, Swami Satyamayananda, once was telling us, so many people come, and then there was one lady who was weeping her heart out and saying, please, give me some advice for attaining peace. So, Swami Satyamayananda said, oh, that's simple. And the woman suddenly, now she was all ears and everything. Oh, they're saying, yes, give up your desires. And her face fell. Well, this is the idea. We want bliss. Yeah. Oh, so blissful. Oh, yeah. We speak about everything, even a grain of dust on the earth is full of bliss, sweetness. That is what the ancient chant was, Madhuvata ritayate madhuksharanti. That the wind is blowing sweetly, that grass and dust and everything is sweet. The whole universe is sweetness. These are not just expletives or just kind of words that are used to describe. It's not just mere nature poetry. Oh, I've taken sweetness and I've taken the air and I've joined together and it's bliss. That's poetry. But this is realization. It goes beyond nature. The ones who knows the Vedas are called the rishis. And Swami Vivekananda wanted each and every one of us to be rishis. What is the meaning of rishi? One who can see the past, present, future, the seer of truth. He wanted all of us to be rishis. This is what we must understand. Knowing the Vedas means, well, what are the Vedas? Well, the whole universe is created out of the Vedas. So, the Vedas are eternal. And it's like, as I say, it is called the cosmic mind of God. So, these truths are existent in the mind of God, and these rishis intuit those truths, and which they give it to us in the form of these mantras, in the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, etc. So these, Swami Vivekananda says, I have seen the mantra in shining gold letters. So it's not a kind of a figment. We are just talking about just, I am not a poet. Okay, I'm telling you what the Upanishads are speaking about. These old rishis were also called poets. Kavi. So they see the reality beyond nature. And so the one who knows the Vedas, one who is untouched by sin, one who is desireless. And how do you become desireless? Well, as long as you have a body, you have desires. The people say, how do I know I have desires? I have no desires. Do you feel yourself as a body? Yes, you have desires. And they are teeming there, but I don't see them. That's why they are called subconscious desires. If you feel you're the body, you have desires. And Holy Mother also says, a little of the desire will remain, otherwise your body will go away. It's as simple as that. So Sri Ramakrishna used to bring his mind down, but I'll drink a little water, I'll smoke, and that small desire is to bring his mind down to the body for the good of humanity. For us, our minds are already down, we have to take it up. So this knowing the Vedas and being desireless. Now, who is going to study these Vedas? The other day, Ben Maharaj, he showed me 3 boxes of books full of Vedic literature. And I was so kind of thrilled. Look at this. Oh my God. These are priceless and these will not be published anymore. And we are discussing what has to be done. I took a few of them. I said, I'm going to go back to... Now, we'll keep it in a separate reference section. Don't worry, here at the center. But who has the time for all this? Remember one thing. When once Swami Vivekananda accosted Girish Chandra Ghosh, after they had finished deliberating on certain sections of the Vedas, which were newly published as sacred books of the East by Max Muller. So Girish Ghosh had come in and is saying, so Girish, I think you're not interested in all these. Well, this time by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna, he takes that book of the Vedas, salutes it, makes pranams. I have jumped over the Vedas and I have gone over by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna. So for us also, we need to know that Sri Krishna, don't look at him as, there is some kind of saint of Dakshineshwar. We say there's a saint of Dakshineshwar. We are also fools, We also in our literature saint of Dakshineshwar. So Ramakrishna, one of his disciples says, Nikila Veda Murtaye. He is the form, the entire form of the Vedas. Sri Krishna is a Veda Murti. He is the form of the Vedas. Because he is the one who has inspired the Vedas, who has given up the Vedas. So if you want to go straight, like Girish goes, jump over the Vedas, go straight to Sri Krishna. So you have there. Desireless, well, the more you go towards the west, the east falls away. The more you go towards Sri Krishna, all your desires will fall away. Don't be bothered about, I have a desire for tea or coffee. Should I drink tea or coffee? Don't waste your mental energy with this. Sri Krishna is very clear. You satisfy all your smaller desires, don't worry. And he himself says, you see, Roshe Boshe Thaki, I like to sit down in bliss. I don't want to be a dry sadhu. I don't want to be a dry person. So take care of all these small things that you feel, okay, I could help me. Yeah. And the big desires, give them up. So that's the simple. So this is, if you can get this, imagine these units of bliss. Actually, they're immeasurable. The Upanishads are just giving us a rough, you can see, evaluation. One unit of human bliss is this. One person who is learned, young, strong, cultured, expeditious, and is the ruler of this whole earth, that is one unit of human bliss. So we are not even like ants somewhere. We're trying to get a little grain of sugar. And like Sri Krishna says, one ant comes and picks up one grain of sugar from a giant heap of sugar and says, tomorrow I'm going to come and take the whole hill of sugar back to me. It's just an impossibility. So what we need to take from here is two things. The more your consciousness expands, the more blissful you become. Okay? Number one. Now, I mean expanding consciousness, you do it through unselfishness, through love, through compassion, through karma yoga, whatever yoga you have to do it. Not through some kind of, psychotropic drugs. Take LSD, I've got my consciousness expanded. People have got some queer ideas of expansion of consciousness. So it's nothing there. That consciousness, of expanded consciousness through LSD or psilocybin or anything, is happening in your brain only. It's just a disentanglement of your neurons. It's got nothing to do with the expansion of consciousness. It's just the neurons firing like mad, does not know what has happened. Okay. So don't equate that expansion of consciousness with the real expansion of consciousness. Secondly, what we have to do, the degree of bliss experienced indicates your spirituality. What is the index, or what is the indication of spiritual or spirituality? You look at a sunset or a sunrise and say, oh, such a spiritual feeling. That's okay. They're using it in a very loose term. Bliss is the index of your spiritual growth. As simple as that. And if we can understand this, then you so yes, there are other indications like your unselfishness. Like Swamiji, unselfishness is God. So your unselfishness, your degree of experience of bliss will indicate your spirituality. But what about the other pains and miseries of this world? Yeah, let the body know its pains. You, my mind, dwell in bliss, as Shri Ramakrishna says. That is what is spirituality. This is what is, again, I'll come back to what the original premise was. This bliss is the same as your own self, the Atman. It is existence, consciousness, and bliss. That's why it's called this. It is not three. Existence is consciousness. Consciousness is bliss. It is a swarupa. It's a nature of reality. So when you say, "Oh, God is so dry, let's sprinkle him with our sprinklers of devotion," you don't know what's God. So God has got some, we got various ideas, conceptions about God. Vedanta says the first thing you need to do is get that idea of reality within you. Then we can start the whole process. The moment you project it outside, you're losing ground. So bring it in, it is there. So as I say, Koheva nasya pranat yadihesha akasha ananda nasyat. Who can live, who can breathe if this bliss wasn't there in the space of your heart? If this bliss wasn't part of you, you think you will be able to live? You think you will every day get up and do the same old things, eat that same things, do the same old things, talk the same stupid things, hear the same stupid things? Can you imagine? We'll go mad, insane if you do those. If we just think about it, we are in a moribund state if this bliss wasn't there to enliven us. And that's why it's saying, this indeed enlivens us, this bliss. So remember, just a particle of this bliss of Brahman is what all beings live through. So here we have this bliss. It's bliss. Anandam, Ananda, Ananda hi kevala. Bliss, bliss, bliss. Pure bliss. Okay. So we stop here for now. You can ask some questions, and I can gauge, evaluate whether you have all been kind of with me on the same page. Om, peace, peace, peace. That's nice.
Can you speak a little bit about holding the tension between following your bliss and making your bliss?
Don't follow your bliss. Just be blissful.
Okay.
The more we are away from our real nature, the less blissful we become. And the commentators on these sections speaks about, because it is due to ignorance, we seek bliss in objects. And the moment we retract from those and know that the bliss is there, just be yourself. I remember one time, some nuns were in Santa Barbara, and I was sitting down in the monastery the whole day, and they wanted to know what I did the whole day. So, what did you do the whole day? I said, that's a problem with you people. Why do somebody has to do something? Why can't somebody just be? And it was so thrilling for them, and they said, yes, that's the idea. Just be yourself. When you divest yourself of everything, it is your sense of the self, the false self, ego, that makes you miserable. When you give it up in deep sleep, when you go down to deep sleep, see that experience of happiness that you, bliss that you have. Okay, why? Because that your ego, your individuality is absent, and when that is absent, did you notice something? The world also is absent. You will only experience the world when you are aware of your own ego, your individuality. Yeah. So it's like, when you play with children, children, they don't have that crystallized sense of self. And when you have to interact with them, you also have to keep aside your own ego and play with them and see how by nature they are so happy and they laugh for no reason. And yeah, then you also experience that. So if you can hold your ego away for a while, and we can do that,
Yes, Swami.
that is the best way to get happiness. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you distinguished between the kind of bliss that one could have from seeing a sunset or something like that, from the sort of spiritual bliss that the Upanishads are talking about. And you also said that we can use that spiritual bliss as a sort of gauge for our level of spirituality. It seems like there would be a danger that we might see a sunset and get some feeling of joy and think, oh, now my spiritual level must be higher. How can we distinguish for practical purposes in knowing whether some joy that we are experiencing is that higher level or the lower kind?
Well, it's easy. After the sun has set, then what? Does your spiritual feeling last? You got the idea? So, what happens in many cases, the mind which is whipped in activity, for a moment it becomes calm. And the moment it becomes calm, that is what reflects that inner bliss actually. A sublime, you can say, scenery outside makes the mind calm. So that itself should indicate that it is actually coming from inside, not the sunset per se, or not the sunrise, or not a kind of beautiful flower, or I could see a kind of a hummingbird hovering over a flower. It's so sublime, so beautiful. Actually, it's a reaction from my own mind. It's coming from within. That is what and that's how Vedanta says, yeah, this thing outside, you need to retract yourself and come back and find the source of everything within. Okay, so the answers are within, the questions are within, everything is within.
So the main distinction, are you saying, would be really how long-lasting that sort of sense of bliss is?
It will be a kind of continuous feeling of bliss. Holy Mother says, when I was in Kamarpukur in Sri Ramakrishna, she had gone there as a young girl. Sri Ramakrishna is saying, he placed within my heart a jar of bliss. And it was constant. So there will be a constant experience of bliss. Whether the sun is rising or setting, or it's dark, it's midnight, whatever. There will be a constant experience. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Witness for that. Maharaj, there seems to be a normative divide, if I may coin that word, like we talk about the digital divide. So there seems to be, in my mind, a normative divide in the society that I'm operating, where the norm seems to be do all the time, focused on what did you do, like you just mentioned in that beautiful experience in Santa Barbara. That is okay, the nuns recognize what you're saying, but the people that I am surrounded by, they are focused on doing and achieving, and also measurement of what I have done. So I find a major challenge here. Like if I believe in not so much of doing and realizing or recognizing my true nature here, as you are explaining so beautifully, how do I transcend this disconnect?
No, the normative, it seems, you're using the word seems. Well, it's everything is seemingly. But to answer your question, Shri Ramakrishna says, with one hand hold on to God and one hand work. And when you have finished your work, hold God with both hands. And when you have to work with one hand. That is, keep your mind on work when you're working, but don't let go of God. So he used that, hold on to God and work. So if you are buffeted by people's opinions, you have not yet matured to a point where you can say, this is what I stand for, I represent, I am. Okay, I have to do, but this doing business, like the Upanishad, Shankaracharya said, avidya kama karma. The karma, you got to do it fine, but you do it for God. At the end of the day, once you finished everything, you pray to Shri Ramakrishna, pray to the God that you worship, and say, whatever I have thought, what I have done, whatever I have said, I offer all this to you. So offer back the karma and the results of karma and the fruits of karma, whatever you like, back to God. So you will become free. Don't keep a little for you and give the rest to God. Okay. Sri Ramakrishna has given us the example of, two friends who had met after a long time. One friend says, oh my God, I'm so delighted that you have come and we're meeting after a long time. And let me get you something. And what happens? One friend, she sees these, you can see reams of beautiful, colored thread. And she takes one ream of colored thread and she puts it under a, you can say, armpit. And in India we have the saris and kind of covered. And her friend comes from getting whatever she had gone for, and she notices that ream of colored thread is missing. Now she cannot tell her friend, please return it. Saying, I'm so delighted, let's dance. And she's saying, okay. And her friend is dancing with one arm raised. So the other friend is saying, dance with both hands up. Say, no, don't press me too much. I know dancing only this much. So most of us, we press something that we like here to us, and then we say, yeah, this is God, this is for God. Raise both hands up. At the end of the day, raise both hands up and say, whatever I've done, thought, believed, whatever I've spoken is for you. I don't keep something for me and then give the other thing. So, Shri Ramakrishna always used to say, make your mind and speech one. That's a tremendous statement, you see. If you can make both these things aligned, you will become a power. Not in the world, at least to yourself. People will obey you, listen to you, acknowledge you. So, try to do this. Hold Shri Ramakrishna's with one hand and work. At the end of the day, offer everything. And also make your mind and speech one. So this doing and this seeming and this kind of normative, you can say, divide will all go away. Hopefully by Shri Ramakrishna's grace.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Pranam.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So basically, this is a comment. You described that the Vedas try to quantify bliss, unit of this and then 1,000 unit that, etc., etc. And that's interesting way of doing it. And on the other hand, Sri Ramakrishna, in his own immutable way, he said, this is like a soft dog trying to measure the depth of the ocean.
That is the ultimate, talking about ultimate experience. That's why I said we have come to the very edge of the known universe, the relative universe. So this is we're talking about a Sa-guna Brahman. Okay. And that is the reality of names and forms. And then there's a reality that transcends both name and form, and that is the absolute. Okay. So this is the highest reaches of relative existence.
Yeah.
So that's what the Upanishads want to show you.
Very good. No, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Swami Pranam, you said that bliss is you. What can you tell me what that means?
Well, it's a subjective. Like, if suppose I ask, what is Keith? Keith is my name, but what is Keith? Yeah, who is Keith? Then you'll keep on peeling back layers after layers. You say, yeah, I'm a human being, I'm a male, I'm a this, I'm a that. All your identities keep on being peeled away. What remains? Yeah, there's a core to Keith, which is not Keith. Okay. And that is the real Keith. And that is the real bliss. So it is one with your own existence, with our own existence. That's what it's saying. So when you say, yeah, I exist, that existence has that nature of bliss. That's why it's called Ananda Swarupa. Okay. So where is that bliss? It's your real nature. So it is one with you. Only thing, we are on the layers outside. Last Sunday's talk, I think you should go revisit that. We spoke about identity, unpacking one's identity. I think you should go there and kind of have a review, and you can look at it. It'll tell you that how many identities we have, assumed identities. And some of them have been impinged on us by culture and civilization. So we are burdened with these identities, and we don't go to seek what we really are. So that's okay.
Yes, Swami.
Thank you.
Yes, Swami. I have another question, Swami.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Swami, so when you said just be, how do you know you are actually being versus you're thinking you're being?
Oh, thought is a very, very kind of a very lower state of being. Your body is there. You become aware of your body. When you're aware of thoughts, you are also away from real being. Swami Vivekananda says that's why the highest state is if you can stop all thoughts, great power will arise within you. So it is beyond thought. Now, if you say, what is that state? Just to kind of briefly just mention it, I won't elaborate it. There is a part of your mind which is called a higher consciousness or super consciousness. We are aware of your consciousness, your relative consciousness, and then we also know that the subconsciousness also interacts with the conscious layer of the mind. So Swami Vivekananda says, consciousness is a thin film on the ocean. Now he's saying this present mind that we have is just a thin film on the ocean of subconsciousness. Now take for illustration, you have the whole Pacific Ocean, the deep Pacific Ocean. That whole thing is nothing but the subconscious, and then the waves on the ocean are the conscious layers, and there's a huge realm above those waves up to the skies. That realm is called the higher consciousness. Okay? So, in that, there is no thought. That's why the whole process of meditation is to go beyond thought. It is called chitta vritti. It's called a vritti. Your knowledge of the relative world is nothing but a mode of the mind. You have to go beyond the modes of the minds. Okay. So that you have to struggle. And we will be taking up some of these, you can say, practices a little later on as I get settled down. How to get beyond these kind of guided meditation, you can say, methodologies.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
so much.
Clear.
Thank you for your wonderful talk, Maharaj. Very inspiring. My question is, how do you maintain the bliss that you feel in meditation during the rest of the day?
Ah,
The continuous bliss that Mother experienced, please.
suppose you've had a nice, pleasant experience in the morning. Okay, that is remains with you for a few hours,
Yes,
and then it becomes a long kind of a memory. Okay.
yes,
Now, certain, you can say, experiences in the mind retain itself as a kind of undercurrent for a length of time, for a few hours. Like suppose you meditate in the morning, you're in a kind of a very calm and a blissful state. That bliss stays with you, must stay with you. Real meditation must stay with you for at least 3 or 4 or 5 hours. And then again in the evening when you meditate, again you plunge inside and you get that bliss, and that remains for some time. Okay? Now as your meditation becomes more refined, that bliss is going to be with you all through the day.
okay.
Oh yes.
Well, we aim for that, but it doesn't happen immediately.
No, it doesn't happen immediately. And like one of my ideas is to let us go through a kind of a methodology to get into some deep meditation. I used to do that when I was in LA, and so let's see, we can do something practical. I will make you.
Very good.
I will make you all sit down and meditate.
Excellent.
Ah.
Are you suggesting that meditating then several times a day will help you to maintain that bliss, or in the
No.
evening?
You go in for quality, not quantity.
Quality, not quantity.
Right now, go for quality.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you very much. And it was good to see you all. Okay. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.
Peace, peace, peace.
Peace, peace, peace. Peace to all you all of them. There we have so many wonderful people. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here.